Cybersecurity risk assessments today on Cyber Sentinel. Hi, I'm Alan Adcock. I'm CEO of ASC Group. We're a cybersecurity and IT management company based here in Atlanta, Georgia. And this is Cyber Sentinel. On Cyber Sentinel, we talk about ways to keep you and your company safe online. Let's get to a couple of questions for this episode. So in most cases, security controls are implemented in a reactive nature after a breach has taken place. So where we want to get to where we're thinking about doing things proactively, because the number of cybersecurity breaches over the last years has been rapidly increasing. So we want to get to where we're looking at this as a persistent business risk. The way that we do this and evolve into a cybersecurity risk management posture is by starting with security assessment. Once that assessment is completed, then we can look at where the gaps are in your network security and then start to address those gaps, hopefully in a proactive method rather than being in a reactive position. So that all starts with that risk assessment. Based on what the results of your risk assessment are, we'll know what controls need to be implemented in your organization. And without having that risk assessment, we really don't know where your starting point is. So to address the question of what can I do proactively, it all starts with the risk assessment so that we're going to go through and identify those gaps. Yeah, so when we look at best practices in any IT space, we want to look at that as a holistic and ongoing set of controls. So in this case, we're looking at cybersecurity risk management. The first thing we're going to do as part of risk management is identifying and classifying the information assets. So where is the important data stored in your company's infrastructure? It used to be everything was pretty well contained on site, on servers. Every company had a little security rack or a server rack in their office. All the data was stored on that on servers in that rack. Nowadays, just getting an inventory of what cloud assets a company's using can be really challenging because there's data that's stored all over the place. And part of this classification is trying to figure out where all that data is stored. Different departments can store data in vastly different ways using different cloud platforms, and we've got to get where the IT security professionals have a list, at least a start, of where all that data is located. Once we kind of know that, we're going to do a baseline risk assessment, which is basically taking a snapshot of the entire setup. Where are the vulnerabilities? What controls do we need to look at in order to address the risk of all those platforms where that data has been identified? Next, we're going to look at identifying threats and threat actors. So who could be targeting your organization? Is it foreign nation states if you're a DoD contractor? Is it your competition up the street if you're a local business? Who's interested in the data that you've got and may be coming after that data as a targeted attack versus just a random kind of attack, which is more of an assault on your company's security based on a vulnerability that's been exploited, that they can exploit, versus going after you specifically. The fourth step is to review your security controls. So now that we've got an understanding of where the information is, we've got a baseline of the risk, we've got a baseline of the threat actors. Now we need to look at enhancing those security controls around all those pieces of information. And the fifth thing is to reassess on an ongoing basis. So this is not a one-time event and then we forget about it. It has to be reassessed ongoing because all these factors change. Where the data stored changes, where the baseline assessment risks changes, new vulnerabilities are discovered, we have to patch. And then the threats and the threat actors change on a regular basis as well. So we want to make sure this is an ongoing living process. So any proper cybersecurity risk assessment is going to be an ongoing process where the organization is going to uncover and then protect and then fix any vulnerabilities that are discovered through this process. There's a couple of key deliverables that you should be looking for. The first deliverable is an identification of potential threats to the organization and the data that you maintain. The next is we're going to identify vulnerabilities to the current network infrastructure and security posture that you have. we're going to deliver a prediction of what the impact of those threats would be on the organization. And then the last thing is to provide threat recovery options in the event that something happens and bad guys get through the wall. What are the ways to recover from a breach in that case? So those are the 4 main deliverables that we're going to look for in that risk assessment. That's all we've got for this episode of Cyber Sentinel. You can find us online at #Cyber Sentinel. Please send us any questions you want us to address on future episodes, and we'll see you next time.